The long road after falling. My name is Lucas, and I want to tell you about a time when my life felt very heavy. This story is about losing hope, finding support, and learning to believe in myself again. When I was a child, I liked helping others. I often helped my classmates with homework. I enjoyed explaining simple ideas and seeing people understand. It made me feel happy inside. Because of this, I dreamed of becoming a teacher. I imagined standing in a classroom, speaking clearly, and helping students learn and grow. My parents supported my dream. They told me that teaching is a good and meaningful job. They encouraged me to study hard and never give up. During my university years, I worked very hard. I woke up early, attended classes, and spent long hours studying. Sometimes I felt tired, but I kept going because I believed in my dream. When I graduated, I felt proud. I believed that the hardest part was over. I applied for a teaching job at a nearby school. I prepared carefully for the interview. I practiced speaking and thought about how I would answer questions. On the day of the interview, I wore my best clothes. My hands were shaking, but I tried to stay calm. The interview went well. The teachers were kind, and I answered their questions honestly. When I left, I felt hopeful. A week later, I received an email. The school thanked me for my interest, but they said they chose another candidate with more experience. I read the email again and again. I felt a deep sadness in my chest. I thought, maybe I am not good enough. Days passed slowly. I stayed at home and avoided talking to people. I stopped reading and stopped planning for the future. My parents tried to encourage me, but I felt empty. I began to question my abilities. One evening, my close friend Daniel came to visit me. He knocked on the door and brought warm food. We sat together quietly. After some time, he said, "Lucas, it is okay to feel hurt, but you are still capable." I told him about my fears. I said, "What if I never succeed?" Daniel listened carefully. He did not interrupt. Then he said, "Failure is not the end. It is a lesson." His words were simple, but they stayed with me. A few days later, I decided to go for a walk. The weather was cool, and the sky was gray. I walked slowly through the streets and thought about my life. I realized that my dream was still alive, even if I felt lost. I decided to take small steps. I found a community center that needed volunteers. They needed people to help children with homework after school. At first, I felt nervous. I worried that I might not be good enough. On my first day, I met a group of children. Some were shy, and some were energetic. They looked at me with curiosity. I introduced myself and began helping them with simple tasks. Slowly, I felt comfortable. The children smiled and asked questions. Their energy gave me strength. One afternoon, a young girl said, "Thank you for explaining. I understand now." Her words touched my heart deeply. I realized that teaching is not only about having a job. It is about helping others grow. Weeks turned into months. I continued volunteering regularly. There were days when I felt tired. There were days when I doubted myself again. But I remembered Daniel's words. Daniel often called me and asked how I was doing. He reminded me to keep moving forward. My parents also supported me. They told me they were proud of my effort. One night, I sat alone and thought about my journey. I realized that failure had taught me patience. I began to see failure differently. It was not a wall. It was a step. After 1 year, I decided to apply for teaching jobs again. This time, I felt more confident because I had experience. I prepared carefully and attended several interviews. Finally, one school offered me a position. When I received the news, I felt tears in my eyes. I felt relief, joy, and gratitude. I called my parents first. They were very happy. Then I called Daniel. He laughed and said, "I knew you could do it." On my first day as a teacher, I stood in the classroom and looked at my students. I felt nervous but excited. I remembered the difficult days and felt thankful for the journey. Teaching was not always easy. Some days were challenging. Some lessons did not go as planned. But I learned to stay patient. I listened to my students and tried to understand their needs. Over time, I grew stronger and more confident. One day, a student came to me after class and said, "You helped me believe in myself." Those words meant more than any success. Years later, I often think about that difficult time after my first failure. I realize it changed me in important ways. It taught me humility. It taught me resilience. It taught me gratitude. Daniel is still my close friend. We often talk about life and support each other. My parents continue to encourage me. Their love gives me strength. Now, when I meet people who feel discouraged, I share my story. I tell them that difficult moments can lead to growth. Life is not always smooth. Sometimes we fall, but falling does not mean we cannot rise again. I learned that success is not only about reaching a goal. It is about learning, growing, and becoming stronger. When I look back, I feel thankful for every challenge. Because of those challenges, I discovered my true strength. And that is why I believe that every step, even the difficult ones, has meaning. This is my story, a story of falling, learning, and finding light again.